Just weeks after dazzling the world with her timeless grace at the Venice Film Festival, Sophia Loren's radiant smile was replaced by unimaginable pain. A brutal fall in her bathroom turned into a life-threatening emergency, shattering multiple bones and sending shockwaves through the hearts of fans worldwide. For a woman who devoted her life to family and carried herself with elegance through every storm, this moment was more than just an accident, it was a heartbreaking turn in the life of a beloved icon. What really happened behind closed doors? And what does this mean for Sophia Loren's future? Today, we uncover the painful truth behind the headlines. Her agent's carefully worded statement claimed that recovery would take time, but something about it felt too controlled, too cautious. Since then, the silence has been deafening. Fake death rumors have flooded the internet, and Sophia Loren has vanished from public view. But in one rare glimpse, the truth was hard to ignore: the way she gripped her walking stick, so tightly, so deliberately, it wasn't just for support. Something had changed in the woman who once defied time itself, boldly declaring that age was just a number. Sofia Costanza Brigida Villani Ciccolone was born on September 20, 1934, in Rome, not in a prestigious hospital, but in one reserved for unwed mothers. In the deeply conservative, Catholic Italy of the 1930s, her very birth was branded with shame. Her mother, Romilda, a striking beauty often compared to Greta Garbo, had dreams of stardom but was met with ridicule instead. From the moment Sophia took her first breath, she was fighting a world determined to keep her in the shadows, and now, at 90, she may be facing her most personal battle yet. No matter how stunning or talented she was, Sophia Loren could never fully escape the stain society had placed on her birth. Being born out of wedlock in 1930s Italy wasn't just a personal detail, it was a public sentence. The hospital where she was delivered wasn't a place of celebration, it was a hidden corner of shame, where fallen women were quietly tucked away to give birth in secrecy. From her very first breath, Sophia's life was wrapped in whispers, judgment, and a world eager to keep her in the shadows. The man who started it all, Riccardo Ciccolone, didn't just abandon responsibility, he disappeared. Though he worked briefly for the National Railway, what mattered more was that he was already married when he seduced Sophia's mother, Romilda. And when she became pregnant, he refused to marry her, refused to support her, and left both mother and daughter to survive on their own. That betrayal carved the first scar in Sophia's journey, one that would fuel both her strength and her silence for decades to come. Sophia only had 3 encounters with her father. Once when she was 5 years old, once when she was 17, and once more when he was near death in 1976. The last encounter didn't last long. She never forgot what he had done, even though she claimed to have forgiven him. He didn't want to be involved in her life, even when she rose to become one of the most well-known actors in the world. However, Sophia later took an odd action. According to her, her father was descended from nobles. She used names such as Vic Countess of Puddoli and Marchioness of Licata to refer to herself in her autobiography. It made little difference if the assertions were true or not. It was a form of story rewriting. She transformed herself into a person with aristocratic blood rather than being the unwanted kid of an unfaithful father. She used it as a means of transforming suffering into pride. She said that her dignity derived from the same man who had rejected her. It was like placing a crown on a previously disregarded child's head. With Sophia, the suffering continued. Their father would not even sign her birth certificate when their younger sister, Maria, was born in 1938. Maria was therefore unable to legally claim his name. That decision's brutality left a lasting scar. Sophia spent her money on something more significant than notoriety after she achieved success. For Maria to be officially recognized, she paid Riccardo. Although it was a low-key transaction, it was crucial. At last, Maria was able to use the Ciccolone name. Sophia wasn't merely filling out paperwork. She was taking this action to spare her sister from having to endure nasty jokes and constant reminders that their father had turned her down. The family had been pushed to the brink by the conclusion of the war. They had nothing when they returned to Poti. In order to sell homemade cherry wine, Sophia's grandma Louisa converted their living room into an illegal bar. This was more than a side project. They survived because of it. Rilda was a pianist. Maria charmed patrons with her singing. Sophia scrubbed dishes and waited tables. Even though she was just a teenager, she was already aware of what it meant to labor in order to survive. American servicemen, primarily GIs stationed nearby, began to flood the area. They brought stories from another planet, food, and money. One day in 1944, the war struck once more. When Allied planes bombed Poti, Sophia was 10 years old. A shrapnel fragment cut into her chin as people fled for cover. A lasting scar was left behind. The horror never left her, even though she lived. She was unable to sleep in the dark, even as an adult. Makeup professionals put a lot of effort into concealing the scar during her acting career. However, she was always aware of its presence. She carried that moment, that explosion, and that scar with her, molding not only her face but also her soul. It provided her with a source of inspiration for poignant movie sequences, particularly when she portrayed women ripped apart by conflict. Due to its proximity to a military port and weapons industry, the village of Poti was attacked multiple times. The area was repeatedly targeted by planes. Every day, people lived in fear. Families fled to train tunnels, which were rat-infested, chilly, and dark, to hide when the bombs came. Sophia spent a lot of her young evenings there, crouched in the dark, hoping the explosions would stop. Another source of anxiety was the adjacent volcano, Solfatara. People thought the whole area would explode if it was struck. Sophia lived in continual fear for 5 years. Not only of conflict, but of total devastation. Her mother had had enough of the shrapnel episode. She fled to Naples with her 2 girls in tow. They abandoned everything. They had to plead with distant relatives for lodging once they arrived in the city. It was humiliating in addition to being uncomfortable. Everyone is fighting for their lives as several families are squeezed into small apartments. Sophia witnessed her mother sobbing as she begged for food and shelter. Watching her mother plead for help, the Oscar-winning kid was just another homeless child. The war was over by 1945. However, the harm had already been done. They found their village in ruins. Jobs had disappeared. There wasn't much food. The illicit cherry liquor bar reopened. 11-year-old Sophia worked every day. She did whatever it took, including cleaning and serving. Hunger was an everyday issue. Dry bread was all they had at times. More evenings than she could remember, she went to bed hungry. Even so, she developed survival skills. She learned how to deal with the boisterous, inebriated, and violent adults in her environment. She would subsequently be able to handle agents, producers, and all the demands of celebrity thanks to her resilience. She was a shy, scrawny 14-year-old from a bombed-out village close to Naples. However, everything changed when Sophia Loren entered that beauty pageant in 1950. Not even her real name was being used. She went by Sophia Lazaro and donned the second-place Les Show candidate sash. No one had high expectations. Nevertheless, she managed to place in the top 3. They handed her something equally significant even though she didn't win the primary title. 1950s Miss Elegance. There was prize money for that championship. And everything changed because of the money. It provided a means of escape from poverty and a return to Rome for her and her mother, Rilda. That was more than a spectacle to them. It was a way out. They had escaped World War II bombing strikes only a few years before. The scar on Sophia's chin was caused by one of those bombs. She used to get made fun of by her classmates. She was referred to as Toothpick. But she was no longer a joke that night, dressed in heels and optimism. She was becoming well known. Everything altered once more in September 1951, a year later. She was only 16. His age was 37. At another competition, Carlo Ponti, a well-known film producer who already had a wife and 2 children, saw her sitting at a table with friends in a restaurant close to the Colosseum rather than on stage. He was unable to look away from her. When he first asked her, she declined to contend. He therefore used a waitress to deliver a second letter. She said yes this time. For Ponti, her placing second was sufficient. That same evening, he made her an offer of a 7-year film contract. It was for her career, he said. However, he acknowledged years later that, "I have done everything for love of Sophia." He had complete influence. He gave her advice on what to read, how to talk, and how to dress. He was forming more than a career. He was shaping someone. Her name was the first thing he altered. Sophia Loren's voice was too authentic, too Italian, and too working-ass. He therefore created something more marketable, something that could be sold all over the world, with the help of another producer, Frido Lombardo. The name Sophia Loren, a play on Swedish actress Mara Toen, sounded glitzy, global, and classic. She had previously gone by Sophia Lazaro, a nickname that was made fun of because of her ability to resurrect the dead. Now, however, she was being relaunched entirely. The putty girl had vanished. Someone made for movies took her place. Hollywood was calling by 1956. Unusually for a foreign actress, Paramount Pictures offered her a 5-film contract. Although she had 6 years of experience in Italian film, this was her big break. The agreement helped her break into movies like Houseboat in 1958 and The Pride and the Passion with Cary Grant and Frank Sinatra. The budget for one of those films was $3.7 million, which was a significant amount at the time. America quickly fell in love with her. She wasn't simply another European beauty. She was able to act and had presence. Ponti was developing a persona behind the scenes as the world observed her development on film. Marilyn Monroe was not Loren. She wasn't delicate or blonde. She was brash, dark-haired, and blatantly erotic. She had issues because of her height and boy on a dolphin. To look taller, Alan Ladd had to stand in trenches. It didn't matter, though. People loved her. Her movies were profitable. She was also earning millions of dollars a year by the end of the 1950s, making her the highest-paid actress in Europe. If it meant breaking the law, Ponti would stop at nothing to marry her. He set up his wife's covert divorce from Mexico and his proxy marriage to Loren in 1957. They did not go at all. They were replaced by 2 attorneys. They discovered their marriage through a newspaper article. Ponti believed that the divorce from Mexico would be accepted. He was mistaken. It was rejected by Italy. An Italian court ruled their marriage unconstitutional in 1965. Years of court fights and thousands of expenses resulted from this legal catastrophe. By 1962, the situation worsened. Italy accused them both of bigamy. They might have spent up to 5 years behind bars if found guilty. The charges were submitted by a random Milanese housewife called Luisa Brambilla. She believed that public figures ought to answer for their actions. All at once, Loren and Ponti found themselves on the run in their own nation. They were forced to reside overseas. "We should have been on a honeymoon," Loren subsequently remarked. "But I just remember crying for hours." It wasn't until 1966 that they found peace by becoming French citizens, approved personally by France's prime minister. Despite the anguish, Loren persisted. She played a character who tore open old scars in the 1960 film Two Women. That dread was nothing new to her. Tunnel concealment, famine, and bombings. To be ready for the part of Cicera, a mother attempting to keep her daughter safe amid a conflict. She delved deeply into her past. Her mother's bravery, the dusty odor, and the terrifying evenings. Under Victoria Dyka's direction, it turned into her most impactful performance, and then history happened. She took home the Best Actress Oscar on April 9, 1962. The Academy awarded the prize to a character in a non-English film for the first time. Her age was 27. She defeated icons like Natalie Wood and Audrey Hepburn. She did not attend the event at all. Too anxious to handle the attention, she stayed at home. She received the call with the news from Cary Grant. A barrier that had existed since 1929 had been broken by her. She was more than simply a star in Italy. The star was her. For Best Actress, Loren took 7 David Donatello trophies. Nobody else is comparable. Nearly 60 years separated her first victory in 1961 from her most recent in 2020. At age 86, the life ahead achieved their most recent victory. Her son was the director. She portrayed a survivor of the Holocaust. That evening, she declared, "I cannot live without cinema," and the crowd took her word for it. However, she collaborated with Victoria Dea on some of her best pieces. At the age of 20, he recognized something in her and cast her in The Gold of Naples. Her role was that of a pizza vendor who loses her ring. A minor part, but one that will never be forgotten. She found emotional depth, particularly in Two Ladies, thanks to Dica. They collaborated on Yesterday, Tomorrow, an Italian-style marriage. Her reality was revealed by his directing, and their pictures exemplified the heyday of Italian cinema. Morello Mastroianni came next. Their chemistry lighted up the screen. They collaborated for the first time in 1954. Together, they produced over 10 films over the years. Loren famously remarked, "I never even read the script when I was given a movie with Morello. I simply said, yes. He was never taught his lines. What am I supposed to say now?" he would ask when he arrived. However, it was successful. They had an electric charge. A Special Day, their last outstanding collaboration, revealed a new side. Just a simple relationship, no romanticism. She was a weary homemaker. He lived next door to her and was gay. They were also unforgettable. When Cary Grant fell deeply in love with Sophia Loren, he was 53 years old. She was only 23. In 1957, it took place on the set of The Pride and the Passion. It didn't seem to matter that Grant was already married to his third wife. Loren's youth, grace, and beauty drew him in. Their affair started quietly when filming in Spain. Everyone could see that Grant was in love. On their final night of filming, as the sun fell over the hills, Grant appeared more solemn than normal. "Will you marry me?" he asked, turning to face her. Loren stopped. She later said that she forgot her lines since it felt like she was in a movie. Grant wasn't joking. "We can get married first and work out the rest later," he informed her. He wrote letters. He sent presents. It didn't matter, though. Carlo Ponti was Loren's choice. Cary lived in a different reality. According to her, Grant was devastated by that rejection. She left after he promised to sacrifice all for her. Sophia Loren was silently disintegrating on the inside as her beauty was praised by people all over the world. Her desire to become a mother had grown into an obsession by the time she aged 29. She would form strong bonds with young performers on film sets, keep them close, and maintain contact with them long after the shoot was over. Tragic events occurred yesterday, today, and tomorrow after she became pregnant. She miscarried after collapsing in agony while filming a vehicle sequence in Milan. She could still clearly recall the hospital's harsh lighting, white walls, and sterile odor. It occurred once more during the filming of More Than a Miracle 4 years later. Any other miscarriage. And this time, the doctor changed into merciless. "You will never have an infant," he informed her coldly. Sophia sank into a deep disappointment. Carlo Ponti, her husband, had become so depressed he couldn't paintings or even smile. Loren stated she felt like a failure. Fame meant nothing. She envied the brand new mothers she saw in the clinic. She had everything except the one element she clearly wanted. The man she had chosen over Cary Grant wasn't simply her husband. He became her director, her producer, her guide, her teacher. Carlo Ponti changed into 22 years older than her. After they met, she turned into best 15. He changed into 37 and already a powerful figure in Italian cinema. He informed her, "I have a great eye for talent." And he wasn't incorrect. He signed her in 1953 and took Manipulate. He picked her garments. He selected her scripts. He shaped her voice, her manners, even the books she examined. She later admitted, "Without him, I was by no means a whole girl." He had become the entirety to her. Over 56 years, they made 37 films collectively. She grew beneath his command. Or even whilst she had become a celebrity, his control in no way faded. While he died in 2007 at age 94, that grip sooner or later loosened, but it had lasted a lifetime. It wasn't simply manage. It turned into something deeper. Loren later confessed what many had guessed. She saw Ponti not simply as a husband, but as a father-parent. Her personal father had abandoned her. He could come and move without being concerned for her or her sister. She in no way definitely had a dad. So when she met Ponti, she observed safety. "I wished safety," she stated. "He made me feel serene." This is why she could not select Carrie Supply. She wasn't chasing romance. She needed stability. And Ponti gave her that, even if it got here at a price. Their love lasted 42 years, though it started in controversy. They first married by way of proxy in Mexico in 1957. But Italy failed to understand divorce and Ponti became nonetheless legally married. The courts declared their marriage invalid. The Catholic Church threatened them with excommunication. So that they fled Italy. They gave up their citizenship and have become French citizens. In 1966 they married again, this time legally. They'd 2 sons, Carlo Jr. in 1968 and Eduardo in 1973. Their marriage survived threats, proceedings, and scandals. And while Ponti died, Loren said, "You by no means recover from this type of feeling." 2 years later, when asked if she'd ever marry once more, her solution changed into final. "No, never once more." In 2020, after a 10-year damage from appearing, Sophia Loren lower back to the display at age 86. The movie Become the Life Ahead, directed by using her son, Eduardo Ponti. It became a Netflix sensation, hitting the pinnacle 10 in 37 international locations. Loren played Madame Rosa, a Holocaust survivor and previous prostitute who cared for immigrant youngsters in southern Italy. Critics loved it. The movie earned a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Loren gained several awards, which includes the David D. Donatello and AARP's High Quality Actress Award. Even the movie's unique tune were given an Oscar nomination. For Loren, it turned into an effective comeback. She confirmed that age didn't be counted. Her talent had in no way faded. 2 years later, in 2024, she stunned all of us again. At 90 years old, she stated, "I am hoping never to retire." She told reporters she wasn't thinking about legacy. She became considering her next movie. Her phrases shook Hollywood. She had been performing for 75 years. But she was still hungry, nevertheless dreaming. Even as others bogged down, Loren refused to stop. She stated she felt lucky to nonetheless do what she cherished. For her, age was just more than a few. And behind that spirit become a rule she lived by means of. No plan B. In that same 2024 interview, she stated something few would dare say. "In no way have a plan B," she warned. "Whilst you face a hassle, you locate the answer because you have no choice." That idea, born out of her tough formative years in war-torn Italy, guided her entire existence. Born in 1934 as Sophia Cyclone, she had become the first female to win an Oscar for a non-English function in 1962. Her fierce commitment carried her via heartbreak, rejection, and missed roles, consisting of a well-known one in Dynasty. Still, she kept going, constantly ahead, constantly with Plan A. In 2018, humans started out whispering that she turned into carried out, that Loren had retired. She hadn't acted in a main film considering 9 in 2009. And they pointed to her earlier damage within the 80s when she chose to stay domestic along with her sons. At the time, she had stated, "I have 2 kids, however I never see them." So, she stepped lower back. Many ideas she had stepped returned for appropriate, but they were wrong. Whilst The Life Ahead hit Netflix, the one's rumors vanished. Her absence wasn't retirement. It was staying power. That same comeback also found out something stunning. A mother-son collaboration that confounded all the clichés. The lifestyles in advance became Sophia and Eduardo's 1/3 mission collectively, and it became their high quality. Loren stated, operating with him gave her a completely unique form of peace. He would not let me prevent till I give him my excellent. She stated he is aware of what buttons to push. She depended on him fully and he delivered a film that proved critics incorrect once more. At 86, she gave one of the most effective performances of her profession. One reviewer referred to as it brilliant. This wasn't a prefer to her son. It was a masterclass in acting and it confirmed that her hearth nonetheless burned not out of nostalgia but out of pure passion. Collectively they created something timeless. On September 24, 2023, just 4 days after turning 89, Sophia Loren fell in her lavatory at her villa close to Lake Geneva. The autumn changed into brutal. She fractured her hip and badly broke her femur. It befell so all at once within the middle of what should have been a joyful time. Simplest weeks earlier, she had been sparkling in an ivory pants healthy at the Venice Movie Festival, sitting the front row at Giorgio Armani's show. Now she turned rushed into emergency surgery. Her agent confirmed the operation went nicely, however stated recovery might take time. That same week, she needed to cancel the grand establishing of her 4th restaurant in Bari, Italy. Doctors needed to work on more than 1 fractures at some stage in that surgery. It changed into one of the maximum extreme fitness scares she'd ever faced. Her 2 sons, Carlo Jr. and Eduardo, flew in straight away. Carlo changed into 55 and Eduardo, 51 at the time. They stayed with the aid of her aspect at the clinic in Switzerland. For an actress who had stayed sharp and robust into her late 80s, this became a hard turn. Her agent warned enthusiasts recovery could take months. There was no communicate of when she'd go away the sanatorium. It was clean this wasn't just some other fall. It changed into a warfare. And while Loren fought to heal, the internet did something cruel. Rumors started spreading. Websites and social media posts started out claiming she was useless. They used faux obituaries, even claimed she had mind cancer. None of it turned into genuine, however the lies unfold quicker than the reality. In 2021, a faux tweet about her death had gone viral with over 50,000 stocks before it turned into exposed. Via overdue 2023, Google searches showed greater faux memories than actual ones. Despite the fact that truth checkers like Snopes and Reuters stepped in, humans stored sharing the hoaxes. Researchers found that nearly 40% of celebrity news online came from resources that were not even verified. Then in May 2024, something lovely occurred. Loren turned into visible in public once more. On also 29th, she went out to dinner at Cipriani in West Hollywood. That became 8 months after the autumn. She wore a leopard print blazer, black trousers, and rose gold glasses. Her curls were flawlessly styled. She appeared elegant, robust, and alive. She smiled at fans and held a black and white taking walk stick decorated in style. Her son referred to as it bedazzled. That strolling stick wasn't just for balance. It turned into a symbol. Sophia Loren wasn't disappearing. She became taking walks back into the world on her personal terms. Just 3 days after her surgical procedure back in 2023, she had already thanked her fans via her agent. She stated, "I thank each person for the closeness and affection that they are displaying me. I am better. Simply must do rehabilitation and supply myself a period of rest. The message was brief but effective. She failed to cover in the back of publicists. She confirmed grace even at the same time as recuperation. That message became also shared with the aid of her restaurant crew, the equal crew that had introduced her fall. It advised the world she wasn't giving up, simply slowing down. Via September 2024, she became 90 years vintage and she failed to spend it quietly. Giorgio Armani, additionally 90, hosted a non-public dinner for her. A video from the night time confirmed Loren sparkling in a glittering silver dress with diamonds around her neck. When visitors sang happy birthday, she blanketed her face in happy marvel, then clapped along with the crowd. Armani posted vintage black and white pics of them together. Her kissing his cheek, her leaning on his shoulder. It changed into extra than a birthday. It changed into a tribute to survival, beauty, and a bond that had lasted many years. This celebration wasn't pretty much turning 90. It was approximately rising from ache, smiling through the scars, and reminding the world that Sophia Loren still had her sparkle.